Welcome back to A Family Food Supply. Today we're going to share with you our part 2 of the Azure Standard Haul, where we talk about how we store all the stuff we got.
This includes everything from just normal storage practices, using the refrigerator, using the freezer. We're going to store some stuff in Mylar bags. We're going to do a little bit of just dumping things into jars. And we're going to do some preserving. We've got some dehydrating, we have some canning, and we have some freezing that we're going to do.
Let's get started by checking out the refrigerator and putting that stuff away.
Okay, so when you are storing multiple cheese, you always want to make sure that you're putting your cheese that's going to last the longest at the bottom. We use our vegetable drawer. This is our dairy fridge, so this is where we put all of our eggs. Sour cream goes in here, and then this one expires in July of 2023. These are both May 2023. So it's possible that we actually got a cheese this month that is older than the cheese that we got last month. Now, there's also a cheese down here. This is 7/23. And then I'm gonna say we're going through way too much pepper jack cheese because this is all that we have, is the 2 that we bought. So these are just gonna go in here, one on top of the other. And then we have our smoked cheddar. I'm gonna put in here. I'm gonna grab this one. June 3rd, 22. Oh, packaged on June 3rd, 2022. Still don't have a date on it. So those all fit in there. You can freeze your cheese if you're not going to go through it, but we'll go through, I'm going to say, the majority of that in this month, so we're good. Now with the butter, this is one thing that we do freeze. Our goal is to have a few months worth, but somehow keep going through it. So we just take this. I usually make sure that I open it up so that when it does come time to move it from the freezer to the refrigerator, it's already open, ready to go. Throw it in there, and it'll be ready when we want it. Normally, especially during the summer, we'll make sure that we have refrigerator space for all of our produce. During the fall, we do get a little bit extra produce to preserve, so right now it's not getting too warm, and we're able to keep these in the garage for a couple days until we're able to get to them, and they stay pretty chilly. Okay, so for our oils, it's pretty basic. The biggest thing here is that you want to make sure that you have room on a shelf for them, especially when you're ordering them by the gallon. And number 2, you want to make sure that you are putting them in order of date. And so I always just kind of check the oil date. This olive oil expires 9/14/2024, so it is about a 2-year shelf life, which I believe is really good. Sometimes we get it and it's closer to that like year or 18-month mark. And so these are gonna go on the left. We always pull from the right, and then these should have the oldest. They should have the old. I have a really hard time referring to dates when we're talking about like newest and oldest and all of that. And so these expire in 4/28/23. So we're still good with everything. But the great part is that I know that between here and here, I don't have to worry about anything expiring. Next we have our avocado oil. Again, this one gets its own shelf. Throw these here. Now the expiration date on these is 7/13/24, so close to 2 years, still pretty good. Now our most recent jug that we're using is also 7/13/24. So with the oils, sometimes, like I said, you will get some that actually are older than what you got the week before or the month before. So these that we got last month are 1/27/25, whereas the ones that we just got this month are 7/13/24. Nothing that I'm going to complain about. I believe that the shelf life for the oils that we get from Azure is incredibly generous, long. So next we have apple cider vinegar. Again, making sure that you have enough room on your shelf for the amount that you want to store. We've got our newest over here to the right. These are the oldest. They go in to the left. That's it. Okay, so we next have a case of canned pumpkin puree. Now, with this one, I like to remove as much waste and front load the work as much as possible. So I'm gonna remove the plastic, but I'm gonna keep them in the case so that I can just slide them underneath the case that we have here. This way, when it comes time that we actually need to use this, I don't have to go through and remove the plastic and slow down my process of grabbing pumpkin puree. Scissors or a knife would probably make this go a little bit faster. Also, in the cases, you'll usually have a Best By date on this so that you don't have to like actually look at the can. This is 11/2023. And the one that we're putting on top is 10/2023. This is why you buy it by the case and you keep it in the case, because it's so much easier than doing this manual stacking. Next we have yeast and some pumpkin seeds. Let's start out with the easy one. The pumpkin seeds are just going to go into a quart-sized jar. This is just a little tiny 1-pound bag. I'm gonna try not to spill all over. That fills up a quart jar about perfectly. So if we were to get more of these, what we would do is we would take the 1 pound, put it in the quart jar, and then we would put the rest of them into 1 pound or 1 quart quantities in bags that we would, I don't know, I would probably freeze them with seeds. You can do, I don't know if it's good to do seeds and oxygen absorbers, to be perfectly honest. We've just always froze nuts and seeds as the best way of using them. So these are gonna get a vinyl label put on them and go with the rest of our seeds. Okay, now for the yeast. This gets stored in the freezer. I have a hard time with these little guys. Oh, I can do it. Maybe, just maybe. Yep, if you get that started, then it comes off really easily. We store our yeast in the freezer. I've got some over here that's left over. I'm trying to figure out how much fits into a quart. Because I didn't know, I was gonna order 5 pounds and I didn't really, I don't know, I couldn't wrap my head around how many 5 pounds is gonna be. And I'm thinking, I'm just gonna call a pound a quart. For the yeast, we're going to put this into a vacuum seal bag so that it stores really easily in the freezer. So I'm just gonna take this, dump it in, and then put this guy into the green. Say dry vacuum. So there we have a beautifully sealed bag of yeast, so that when we're done with this one, it's empty. You know, we can open this up, dump it right in. We're not gonna have any extra floating around.
Before we jump into bagging the grain, I wanted to remind you to get on the email list, because in there you're gonna get 3 things. Number 1, you're gonna get our buying guide for the month. Number 2, you're gonna get additional resources that we're offering. And number 3, you're gonna get extra bonus tips and tricks that you're not gonna find anywhere else. So be sure to check out the link below to get on the email list. Next up, we're gonna do some bagging of the grain. We do this for multiple reasons. Number 1, well, because we got nothing better to do. Number 2, because it provides a shelf-stable environment for the grain. Because if you leave it in this, well, that just becomes a mess and a headache.
So if you haven't watched our video on how we choose what size Mylar bag to use, I will link that in the description below. For now, let's get to bagging. Okay, so I start with my handy dandy Mylar bag label sheets, write down the date, and we put these on the Mylar bags first so that we can get them on easily and get a good seal. Otherwise, if you try and put them on after you put the food in the bag and after you've sealed it, it's all lumpy and crinkly. So I try and do just as many as what I know for sure I'm gonna get out of the bag so that I don't have extra bags that are labeled and not needed. I know that a lot of people would rather just take a permanent marker and write on the bag. I think like writing things like soft white wheat gets very time consuming and cumbersome. And so I love the labels. Plus I just love the way that they look because they're functional and they look nice. We'll have these available for you as well. Look for the link in the description below. Here's the date. So if you want to be super efficient, you get one of these little date stamper things, then you can just come through and go like this. Because for the soft white wheat, we've got quite a few that need to be done. I thought to myself, I really don't want to sit here and write them all out. So this is way faster. 2, 3, 4. All right, so we had some extra bags from a previous order, and it ended up being 13 times 25 pounds, and it took us about an hour and a half. We did have various helpers kind of helping out, but so 7-ish minutes per 25-pound bag, the 4 of us. So the 2 of us were working maybe 15 minutes. But as you mentioned, we could have been way more efficient. And so maybe I'm gonna call it like 10 minutes per 25-pound bags. I think that's not too bad. All right, now we're on to the fun part. We've got all kinds of produce that needs to get preserved so that it will last this month and into future months. So over here, we've got Asher working on some sauerkraut and kimchi. And then Kevin's gonna be over here working on the red bell peppers. We're gonna freeze, dehydrate, and slice for use. And then over here, we've got apples. We're gonna be doing applesauce and apple butter. And I don't know if we're gonna get to the apple pie filling today. Maybe, maybe not. But we also might do some dehydrating apples to fill up the dehydrator in addition to the peppers that we're gonna preserve.
Oh, do you want me to do that?
I press. The way that we do our applesauce is super simple. We take our apples, we wash them, we quarter them, put them in a pot of boiling water, and then we let them boil for about 5 to 10 minutes, depending on how mini and how hot the water is. And I'll show you the next step. And when you're canning in the kitchen, the way that you do dinner is you come out here, you put chicken on the Traeger, and you just eat it off the bone. Thank you, babe. Alright, so once the apples are nice and mushy, what I like to do is pull some out and kind of squish it See how you can see that consistency, that it really kind of just falls apart with the fork, like that? That means it's ready. So we pull these out.
That's how you do it right there. Eating chicken, cranking apples.
And then we dump these in here. This is a food mill that's not a food mill. I can't remember what it's called ever. I will link it in the description.
Don't dump all of them.
I'm not going to. And then you crank.
It just fall off.
Crank.
We're not going to link this one if the handle keeps falling off.
You crank and you push, and then look. It's called a food saver. Strainer, food strainer.
Okay.
It's called a food strainer.
Don't you?
And then the apple stuff comes out. The bad stuff comes over here. And what we do with the bad stuff is make it into apple cider vinegar. Hold on. What?
Did I do my drink? Oh, you want some math?
So this is the second batch of applesauce, and it's been sitting for a little while. I just got stove space to kind of heat this back up so that when those jars come out, this, I've got to get canned, and then it'll go in.
That I have.
Alright, while we have all of these apple preserving projects going on, I want to take a minute to remind you to enter to win the giveaway. We've got a immune boosting giveaway. We've got the fire cider book along with some apple cider, some honey, some elderberries, and an elderberry syrup spice pack. The way that you can enter on this video for the giveaway is in the comments below. Let us know something that you most enjoy canning, something new you tried canning, or if you've never canned before, let's go with maybe a favorite canned good that you've received. If you've never received a canned good, let's go with if you ever were to can, what would you try first? Drop that in the comment below and you'll be entered to win the immune boosting giveaway. Also, don't forget, you can also enter in the first video that I already posted. That link will be in the description of this video. And then the next two videos that we have coming up.
Evening is approaching.
Ready to move? We have 14 jars of applesauce. We have a crock pot full of applesauce that's going to be turned into apple butter. I didn't mention, we don't put any sugar or spices or anything in our applesauce or our apple butter. It's just apples. Which I love.
Chicken broth.
It's crooked.
Remember that grain we bagged up earlier with the oxygen absorbers? Check this out. Not sure which one of that guy, but all of these, I'm not sure. These all look good.
Alright, so it's a few days later, more like a lot of days later, and our preserving projects kind of got put on hold. Totally okay, life happened. So now we are getting back to the pickled jalapenos, which actually I think we're going to turn into jalapeno, or candied jalapeno, aka Cowboy Candy.
Yeehaw!
Because I was made aware of the fact that we have quite a few pickled jalapenos still in the refrigerator.
That was last week.
Are they gone?
We should consider
Check.
maybe doing...
I can order more jalapenos. I will do, I need to do another batch with the next Azure order, or we'll figure it out. And then also we're gonna do one last batch of apple butter. We've got, I think, 4 or 5 pints canned of the apple butter. Want to do another batch of that. It's hard to make a lot of it because it's so big when it starts and then it cooks down into almost nothing. So we'll see. Okay, so we did our little dried mango experiment here, comparing what it costs to dehydrate the mango ourselves versus buying it as dried mango from Azure Standard. With the fresh mango, you get 10 pounds for $25.95. We actually got 10.5 pounds. We weighed out the mango, but once you clean it up, you peel it and you take out the pit, it actually comes down to 7.5 pounds that went into the dehydrator. Of that, when it was done dehydrating, we ended up with only 1.7 pounds. That is a 23% yield. So if we take that $25.95 that it costs for the 10 pounds of mango, we divide it by the 1.7 pounds of dried mango, comes out to be $15.26 per pound of dried mango when purchasing it fresh and dehydrating it. Now, alternatively, you can purchase the organic dried mango 1 pound for $11.18. If you get the 5 pounds, that per pound price drops down to $9.72. So it's around 30% less to purchase it dried, already done for you. Now, if you prefer the natural mango that's actually sprinkled with sugar, it's not organic, but it's even cheaper. It is $7.64 for 1 pound, or $7.20 per pound for 5 pounds of the dried mango. Again, not organic, sprinkled with sugar, but less than half the cost of dehydrating it yourself. Now, just because I was curious, I wanted to look into the idea of buying it frozen and dehydrating that. So what I did is I looked at the price. You can get 5 pounds of organic frozen mango for $18.95. I'm going to assume that that's all fresh mango that I can put into the dehydrator. I'm going to assume that we get that 23% yield, which is going to result in a 1.15 pounds of dried mango, which would come to $16.47 per pound of dried mango if you are starting with the frozen mango and dehydrating it. Now, that is more than buying it fresh and dehydrating it yourself, but it's obviously less than buying it dehydrated to begin with. I also double checked. If you buy it in a larger quantity, you can get 30 pounds for $98.21, which would result in 6.9 pounds of dried mango, which will give you a per pound rate of $13.36 per dried mango, which is going to be less than doing it fresh, but still more than buying it dried. Cowboy Candy on its way. Normally, we don't cook with this much sugar. Oh my goodness. Did a lot of research, checked out a number of recipes, and a lot of them have 2 cups of sugar per 1 pound of jalapenos. So I opted for the alternate. I found a few that have 1.5 cup of sugar per pound of jalapenos. So you have 8 cups of sugar, 4 cups of apple cider vinegar, and 6 pounds of jalapenos. And salt.
Check out that Cowboy Candy. Oh, she be cannon.
So we had a lot of leftover juice for the Cowboy Candy, and I think it was on Acres Homestead that I remember seeing her mention that she saved the juice for margarita mix. Not that we're gonna have margaritas anytime soon, but I figured that if I can it, it'll last, and we can have margaritas in a year. Oh, you guys like totally killed this. So once we got some of the disaster in the kitchen cleaned up, we also started another batch of apples. We had I thought we had just over 1 box left, but apparently it was more like closer to 2 boxes. So we're going to make some applesauce that gets cooked down to apple butter.
He's got one hand on the wheel, and one hand on the dog. Oh, dog let go. The first gut's being extracted. Oh yeah.
The water's getting in.
Yes! Yes, you did right for just a minute.
I'm nervous.
All right, so we have our applesauce cooking down in the Instant Pot. We have our candied jalapenos, AKA Cowboy Candy. Fortunately, we had one that did not seal. Darn, we're gonna have to throw it in the fridge and eat it right away. No. We also have our margarita mix that is gonna get put on the shelf for a while. Thank you so much for joining us for this Azure haul, how we stored it. We are going to be back again next week with our videos on how we used it. So be sure to come back, check out all of the fun recipes that we have to share with you.